Construction Careers Foundation, or CCF, is a nonprofit organization that has been around since about 2005. And our whole goal is to educate the emerging workforce about the viable career options in the building trades. And part of our work is being very intentional about diversifying the construction industry as well. One of our programs is the launch of this new speaker series. So tonight, like I mentioned, you'll hear more about apprenticeship from two amazing speakers, and they'll share their knowledge with you. We will have an opportunity to ask questions. And yeah, so we can get started. First of all, we have up Naomi Cowan, who is the Outreach and Education Coordinator with Apprenticeship Minnesota. We also have Don Mullin, who is the Executive Secretary of the St. Paul Building Trades Council. So I will pass it to Naomi first to get us started.
Hey everyone, and Lindsay, thanks for the introduction. So again, my name is Naomi. I use they and them pronouns, and I work for the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry's Apprenticeship Division. Don't worry, that was a mouthful, but I'll explain what all of that means in just a second here. So next slide, please. And then you can go to the next one again. Okay, so the Department of Labor and Industry, very broadly, the Department of Labor and Industry is primarily a regulatory body, right? So the example that I always like to use is when I was 16 and I was working at Target and they were trying to get me to work past 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. The Department of Labor is who I could have called to say, hey, they're violating child labor laws. Or again, the same could go for if you aren't maybe getting paid adequately at work. That's where the Department of Labor would step in. On the slide, you can see all of the different departments that there are. Some of you may have heard of, others you may have not, but I will explain how Department of Labor kind of fits into apprenticeship and how we work together to create registered apprenticeship. So could you go to the next slide, please? One thing that I really like to talk about is what is apprenticeship and how is it a career path, especially just a post-secondary career pathway. So I think a lot of people will talk about college, I'm sure, military, or just going into the workforce without training. All three of these are completely valid ways to go, but there's also kind of this super secret fourth thing that nobody likes to talk about or maybe has not heard about. If you have heard about it's there might be a little bit of confusion behind it, and that's apprenticeship. And so we are all here today to kind of talk about what apprenticeship is. This is very specific. This presentation, we're talking about the trades and how apprenticeship is going to work in the trades, but I will use a few examples about apprenticeship in non-trades examples, just so that you can kind of see how that training model operates in the world. So next slide, please. Okay, what is registered apprenticeship? Very broadly, apprenticeship as a concept is this workforce training model. So you might have heard of it as something that you are going to be working and learning at the same time. And the thing that separates just apprenticeship as working and learning at the same time and registered apprenticeship, which is what we're talking about here today, is there is a commitment. All of the different programs are working with the Department of Labor, me, to make sure that all of their apprentices are meeting certain requirements. So that first bit is going to be employment. All apprentices day one are going to be employed, which means they're making money. That might be different from an internship where you aren't technically employed by the employer. Sometimes you are making money, sometimes it is a paid internship, but it is not a steady job that you're going to continue to have even after that internship is over. The next is the on-the-job training. This is the big thing that everybody knows about. And it is just that you are going to be learning while you are working. The other piece that comes with this is you get a sort of mentor. We call it in apprenticeship a journey worker. I always like to say that a journey worker is a fancy term for somebody that knows what they're doing. So a journey worker in one field might look different than a journey worker in another field. So, for example, one might be a licensed electrician, or in a non-trades example, if you are in a teaching apprenticeship program, it is just a teacher. So the journey worker is the person that has already been through it, that knows what they're doing, that is helping you. And that is the other thing that's guaranteed with the registered apprenticeship. The next is related instruction. So there is a school component to registered apprenticeship. The big part about apprenticeship is that you get a credential at the end, and this related instruction helps you get there. So if you think about, again, I'll use the electricians as an example, that could be helping you study to pass your licensing test at the end. Maybe it can look in other ways. It can look different in different industries. The one thing that I really like about the instruction and apprenticeship is sometimes it will be going to a community college. Other times there are training centers that literally have their classrooms built around their workshop or a work floor, so that students are able to take the classes, and then right after they can just step out onto the shop floor and practice some things with their hands. So yes, womp womp, there is some school that is involved in registered apprenticeship, but it is all going to be only things that you need to know to do the job. That's a little bit different than college, where you're going to be taking classes that might not be exactly relevant. The next part is wages. This is the fun part. Everybody likes to talk money because money is important. So every apprentice, when they're in a registered apprenticeship program, will know exactly how much they're going to make at whatever, at a certain part of their program. So day one, entry level, you know how much you're going to make. You know how much you're going to make year two, and then you know how much you're going to make at the end. And then the last part, like I had said, is you're going to get a credential that is going to look different in different programs. Maybe it looks like a license. Others, it means that you get a certain pay bump. But at the end of the day, if you complete a registered apprenticeship, you will be licensed to work in that field in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, or you can move to Duluth and it'll work. Or if you even cross state lines, the credential will be the same. These are all things that are guaranteed to a registered apprenticeship, or guaranteed to a registered apprentice, that might not be guaranteed if you are in a non-registered program. So again, apprenticeship as a word is just something that is used to describe this training model. But if you go through one of the programs that Don is going to talk about today, all of these things are guaranteed. Next slide, please. And again, this is just something, thank you. So this is a model that I like to use to kind of describe what apprenticeship does. You can see at the bottom that traditional model is you start, if you're in education, you're doing a lot of school, a lot of training. And then at the end is when you get that workforce experience and you kind of end up at the end, which would be almost a journey worker level, somebody that knows what they're doing. And then that top line, that registered apprenticeship model, you're going to be doing it all at the same time. So there is no stop and go. There's no school for a few years and then you work. You're doing it all at the same time. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we're talking about the trades today, but there are plenty of programs in other industries. So if you would like to reach out to me after this webinar and to talk about some of the other opportunities available, you are more than welcome to. But registered apprenticeship is just a model to help learn. It's how to help you learn how to do your job. That is different than maybe college. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the application process? How do you get started? The one tricky thing about apprenticeship that I like to be transparent about, and that Don will give more details about the individual programs in a little bit, but because you're learning to do a specific job, all of the requirements or the applications are going to be specific to that program. With that being said, there's just a very wide variety. So some programs might require you to take a placement test. Others you have to be employed. So maybe take an entry level position before entering into the apprenticeship program. That there are none for the trades that you will have to like work for a year and then enter into the apprenticeship. That is a manufacturing specific example. But other programs might require a trade school degree. Others, I would say the vast majority are going to require a driver's license. One thing that I always say to people entering the trades, the first question I ask is, do you have a driver's license? And then others, you don't need any experience. So you won't need a trade school degree. You will not need to take a placement test. There is a very wide range. And I know I'm throwing a lot of maybes, what ifs at you, but Don will go into some of the specifics in a little bit. And then there is also, for all of the trades programs, there is this information on the DLI website. So if in maybe even tonight or tomorrow you want to look and see, oh, what do I need to do to be an electrician? You can go on the website and look there. And then next slide, please. So again, what to prepare for. You're going to do some on-the-job learning and training. There is time in the classroom, and then there is a time commitment. All of the programs are a minimum of 2,000 hours, which is roughly a year. Some might be longer, but you are going to a minimum. It is a year commitment. And then next slide, please. So how much does an apprenticeship training cost? Usually I like to have folks guess, but we are running a little short on time. So I will scoot to the next slide. Surprise, the answer is very little money to free. So the really nice thing about registered apprenticeship programs is they're designed to be as low cost as possible. I don't want to guarantee that you will never spend any money to be in a registered apprenticeship program, because sometimes you might need to pay for work materials. There's some union fees that are involved, or instruction materials. With that being said, I've never met a program who, if a apprentice comes up to them and says, hey, I can't work because I can't afford boots, has not helped an apprentice out. So they are extremely low cost, if not free. Next slide, please. And then how much do apprentices make? We can go to the next slide. Anywhere between $13 and $40 an hour. So the $13 an hour is looking a little low, because sometimes the apprenticeship programs, the wage goes between, it depends on the industry and the location. So if you're in a location that doesn't have as high of a cost of living, it might be a little bit, the wage might be lower. But as far as the trades apprentices, you are going to be averaging starting between $20 and $25 an hour. Apprentices can make up to $40 an hour, and that's not even including benefits. But there is, this is the range. And then next slide, please. So how do you get started? Hopefully you listen to all of that and you're like, okay, this is awesome. I work and I learn. And then there's very little cost, and I'm getting paid decent amount of money. If you want to learn more or how to get started, you can research the occupations and jobs that are suiting your interests. Again, Don will help you. We'll go through some of the different jobs that are out there. You can talk to a teacher, career counselor. You can also see what's out there on the Department of Labor website. And then after you're done doing all your education, you will apply directly with the program sponsor and employer. So that, I believe, concludes my presentation. Right. Yeah. So I will kick it on over to Don.
Thank you, Naomi. Excuse me. Thank you very much. And thank you to the Department of Labor and Industry. I mean, they do a great job, and apprenticeship is a great model to use. And Lindsay, thanks for allowing me to be a part of this and talk about something I'm so passionate about. But I also do want to tell you first, I get going, I'm going to talk your ears off. So please, you're going to have to kick me on the side and let me know if I'm running out of time. By the way, my name is Don Mullin. I am the Executive Secretary at the St. Paul Building Trades. I've been in that position for roughly about 10 years. I've been out of the field for probably about 15. I come out of the painters and allied trades. So I'd been in that position for about 5 years before I moved on to the building trades. And apprenticeship is my passion. I love this stuff. This is a great opportunity, and just really excited about the journey and that you're getting ready to look onto. And I know that we have some CTE instructors. I know that we have hopefully some students, a little bit of everybody. And so for me, I want you to know that this is really about how I help you or help your students get into the pathway that they want. And that's what I offer to everybody. Whenever I go speak, I say, hey, listen, I'm here because I want to be here. Right? I'm here because I think that this is a great model. We can be doing some great things, and we can do it together. So no matter what, I'm here to help you. My contact information is right there. Later on, I know that Lindsay's going to share it, and all of you, please call my cell, email me. I reply to all of them. I definitely feel that this is a passion of mine, and I want to make sure that we do this the right way and make sure that we're getting all the information. And kind of how it started for me is that when I came out of the field, one of the things I've noticed is I've got 3 adult children now, and I noticed that they weren't getting the pathway education that they needed to in the school. So I went out and I ran for school board because I thought, well, maybe it's there. Maybe I need to start there and start by doing that. And I found out that we really just need to make sure that we're getting more information out. I got elected to school board. I served for 8 years, but it's really about where the information is. How do we get it out? How do people know, like, if they want to go become an electrician? I'm going to show you in a couple minutes how we do that and how what the process is so that you know where to go to. And I would encourage Lindsay to share these with anybody that wants them, and I'll share them with you too. This isn't no big secrets, right? It's just we've just cut it down. We've made sure that it's easy for everybody to get the information and be able to work it through. So with that, again, I'll keep talking, so I'll just keep on rolling. Lindsay, why don't you turn us to the next slide, please? Next one, please. All right. So the St. Paul Building Construction Trades Council, we're the umbrella organization for the 15 different union construction trades. Go ahead, please. These are the 15 different union construction trades. And I would tell you inside of here, there's roughly about 75 different jobs that go into this thing. So there's a huge scope in the industry of just different trades that are out there and different things. And what I think I'm going to do, instead of going through all of them, I would run out of time if I went through all of them. So I think the best way to do this is to go and move to the first one, and then I can talk a little bit about it. So the Boilermakers, typically Boilermakers deal a lot with refineries. They're in refineries. Most of the time they deal with a lot of vessels. And they're the ones, when you see the big tanks, the big tank farms out of like the oil refineries, they're the ones that do a lot of welding into that. They travel a lot. So they're a transient workforce. They work in a lot of different places. Up here in the upper Midwest, most of them, not only do they work, say, down at the Flint Hills or the Marathon Refinery, but they do a lot of Superior and a lot of North Dakota. So they move with a lot within those states. And the way that I've kind of simplified, if I could speak tonight, the way that I've kind of worked this thing is that if you want to be a Boilermaker, their lodge number is 647. There's their address, their phone number, their website. The best time to call them to start signing up to become a Boilermaker is in January. So you're in that sweet spot right now, and I would tell your students in UCT, if you're directing students into that direction, I would encourage you to start thinking about that now. So before we move on, I want to say this. The reason I say January is because most seniors in high school right now are still kind of trying to figure out how to get out to graduate high school, but they really need to be thinking ahead. And that's what you're going to kind of hear me talk about this whole time. And my theme here is about thinking ahead and saying, hey, in January, even though you're still in the start of your last semester, you should be thinking about what that future looks like. And that's what really apprenticeship is, because a lot of these models are getting ready to start gearing up for the summer construction season. And if you're a senior and you wait till June, you're actually waiting too long. You're going to have to wait an additional year before you get into that spotlight and that sweet spot, I like to say. So it's important that we're thinking about these things a little bit early. And I'll tell you that I talk to 9th grade classes and 10th grade classes and get them to start thinking about this pathway from the beginning. We go to the next one, Lindsay. So the bricklayers and allied craft workers. The bricklayers now obviously with brick and block that you would see in a lot of things, but they also said tile. Their program really starts getting busy in March, where they kind of start to look for helpers. There's their address, their suite number, their phone number, their website. If you want to find out more about them, there's a great opportunity to go and look there and to see the great things. And I'd say that they start getting busy in March, but I honestly was talking to them today, and they're already starting to get busy. So there's some opportunity to get us going there. We'll go to the next one. Cement Mason, same thing. They're in the same building. Their address, their phone number. They actually also give us an email address. So if you want to have conversations with them about what a cement mason does, or about you can call me. But if you want to have conversations about their process to get into their location, you can call or you can email them. So, and their website, and they start getting busy in March. The carpenters, the millwrights, and the pile drivers. So I like to talk about this. Carpenters, pretty obvious what you would think that a carpenter does, but they also do floor covering. They also do ceiling acoustic tile. There's some other things that they do. The millwrights deal a lot with machineries and that piece. The pile drivers, I always say this one, and it's funny because I talk about that as you're going down the freeway and you hear that big clumping sound from them shoring up the earth. That's what they do. The pile drivers do is they do a lot of shoring. Their location is right there in St. Paul on Olive Street. There's their phone numbers and their email. They're always hiring. I hear that they're starting to pick up and get busy now, just because of I'd like to say it's warmer weather, but we all know better than that. But it's not as cold as it normally is. So, but they're already starting to pick back up and starting to hire. We're going to go to the next one, Lindsay. So the electricians, pretty interesting how they do their piece. The electricians have a test. It's a national test that they ask you to take to become an electrician. And the reason I tell people to start applying in October and November, so as your senior year, you want to start taking their test, because their JATC does interviews in April. So honestly, I'll tell you right now, if you have students or if you're a student and you want to be an electrician, I would encourage you like almost tomorrow to get on their website and sign up to take their test. Now, it's a basic test. I never tell students, don't ever worry about taking these tests. They're all basic 9th grade reading and math tests. There's nothing crazy about it. It's a simple process. And I'm going to tell you that it doesn't matter where you're at. The resources are there to help you. There's enough practice tests out there. There's enough resources out there to help you get through any test you need to take. We're really here to help you. There's, between the school district, between me, and if you can't find somebody, I'll find somebody to help you get through the test. If it's an old instructor or if it's an instructor for whatever trade it is, there's some great opportunity there. So it's important that our seniors are looking at being an electrician, because that seems to be a very popular one, and that they're looking at those opportunities now. so that we can move. But that being said, there's their address, their phone number, their website. If you go onto their website, you can hit their JTC button and get some additional information for their website. And I tell everybody start applying in November for their interviews in April. Lindsay? The elevator constructors. This one is an interesting one because the elevator constructors ring the bell as far as construction goes. Right now, journey person elevator constructors making almost about $100 an hour total package, which includes all their benefits, their pension fund, and on their check. But it's very difficult. I mean, you definitely need to make sure you're studying for their test, and they give their test every other year, sometimes every third year. It's an online testing. You have to sign up online. It's definitely something that you definitely need to stay on to. Their address is in Little Canada, their phone number, their website. And what you do is you start checking their website for their testing date. Now, a little birdie's told me that they might offer another one this year because they're recruiting. And I would encourage anybody that's moving, even if you're a junior in high school and you're thinking about going into the elevator constructors, it's important that you maybe sign up for that test this year because they may not offer it again for a couple years. So you want to get in and get the test so at least you can get an interview. You know, there's always a question, well, what about still in high school and what do I do? You know, the biggest thing I would tell everybody is it's all about communication. And as you're communicating about this process, it's important that you really look at those things and let them know because they'll make a notation. We're all about trying to set people up for success, and that's definitely a way to do that. Want to move, Linz? Thank you. The heat and frost insulators, they do pipe covering. They do mechanical insulation, and their address is over on Empire in St. Paul. There's their website. I know that they're starting to look for helpers now. There's a couple big turnarounds at the refineries this year, and they're going to be needing people, so they're going to definitely be recruiting helpers to move through those pieces. Want to keep moving? Thanks. The iron workers on Pierce Butler, there's their address, their phone number, their website. They're starting to pick up, you know, with Meta is a huge project down in the South Metro, and they're put a lot of iron workers down there moving. So they're definitely getting ready to get out and look for people. The laborers are always hiring, but March is the big one because they do a lot of highway heavy. They're over in Minneapolis. Actually, I think the address needs to change because they're probably their old address. I think they just moved locations, but their phone numbers are the same and their website's the same. They'll be hiring in March, especially for their highway heavy stuff. A lot of laborers on the highway, as we call it, construction season, and moving through those pieces. The operating engineers. Now, the operating engineers have a great program, not only with their apprenticeship program, and they'll be getting super busy in March, but they also have, for you CTE instructors and teachers out there, they also have a program to where students can get credit for apprenticeship in high school by attending their school, and it doesn't cost them anything to do so. So there's some great opportunity for them to get a little bit of apprenticeship training earlier on, or they'll get credit for apprenticeship training earlier on by utilizing their online schooling program. If you want to know more about that, I'd be more than happy to help you or get you in contact with them to be able to get that information. The painters and allied trades, the glazers, glassworkers, sign and display, trade show installers. I know there's a lot of moving pieces there. Pretty obvious. The painters and allied trades part of the drywall finishers too. They also have a college, so as you go to school up there for them, you can get your associates, and I think they're now even working towards a bachelor's degree if that's what you choose to do. They're starting to get busy and starting to put people out, so I would encourage you to get up. There's their website. The FTI of UM is a pathway up there that you can use that will help you kind of guide yourself through that school piece. The pipe fitters and steam fitters, they'll be taking helpers out. They're actually taking helpers now, signing up. and they're looking for people. They're starting to get really busy. There's a lot more moving pieces. They do HVAC. They do a lot of refinery work, welding. There's some great opportunity up there for them. The Plumbers Local 34 in St. Paul, they're in the same location as me, just downstairs. I talked to Dean today, and he's telling me they're taking helpers as we speak. They're signing up helpers. And the way that they do their helper program is that you go in and you sign up, they'll put you out to work. And then from there, you can decide if you want to go into plumbing. And it's not it's a pathway to kind of help you decide if you want to be a plumber and see if you like the trade. And then you can kind of move into that space. They typically do their apprenticeship program at the end of summer. So it gives you the summer to really kind of explore those possibilities. The roofers, their apprenticeship hall is in Ham Lake. There's their website. They'll be taking people. Actually, I think they're even putting out people now. So there's some great opportunities if you're interested in moving into the roofers and waterproofers into their program. Let's see. Sheet metal workers have a helper program also. There's their email address. I would tell you to email them. Start applying in February. I know they're super busy right now. There's a couple big jobs that are going on right now where their workforce is going to be taxed, and they're going to be looking for additional people. So there's some great opportunity. Would encourage you to continue to start applying for their program. Sprinkler fitters, typically they start applying in December. There's their training coordinator's name, there's their address, their phone number, their website, and then they actually put their applications online. So you can start applying online for them and be able to kind of manage this conversation for them and do some of that legwork online. The Teamsters are always hiring. I'll tell you that they're always looking for people. There's their website, their address, their phone number, and just encourage if you're thinking about being a driver, there's that opportunity. So before we get going, Lindsay, I just want to say that do I have any time left or am I out of time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, this is really just about your journey, right? And I say that respectfully. When I talk to students, I talk to them about the difference in what kind of life they want to live. I tell them the truth that they'll probably never see me again. And if you do, great. Please make sure you say hi. But really, this is about whatever kind of life they want to live. I tell them all, hey, listen, write down everything that you want. If you want a boat, I tell them, truthfully, you want to live in $1 million home? I'm going to tell you that it's probably going to cost you about $4,500 a month, right? Just for a mortgage. You want to drive $100,000 a year, $100,000 car, right? The car payment alone with the interest rate probably going to be about $1,300 to $1,500 a month. Take all that stuff, add it all together, divide it by 160, and you'll really look and see how much money you need to make. You'll need to make an hour to kind of just figure out those pieces. And that's what this is really about. It's about living the life that you want to, figuring out the things that you want in life and going and getting them. And understanding that, if you want to say, hey, I just want to work at McDonald's going to pay you about $15 an hour. You're going to make about $600 a week, right? You're going to make about $2,400 a month, and you're still going to have to pay taxes on that. So it's really about that. Go figure out what you want in life, figure out what you need to do to get there. The construction trades, honestly, total package that's including health insurance and pension typically are running, and I'm just using some round numbers, roughly about $60 to $100 an hour. Most of them are in that $80 an hour range total package. And that's full family health insurance for us. Everybody, I don't think there's one plan that doesn't have full family. That means if you have 1 kid or 10 kids. When I was single, I paid full family health insurance. Now that I have 3 kids, right? They're all adults now, but now that I have 3 kids, I still pay full family health insurance. We all kind of jump in the pool together and we work. There's no differentiate between, an apprentice is an apprentice. Doesn't matter if you're a male or female. It doesn't matter if you're purple, green. Well, I don't know. I'm from Minnesota, so I'm a Vikings fan. So, the green thing is out, but it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Everybody gets paid the same. We fight for everybody the same. And there's some great opportunity in the construction trades. But I'm also not going to kid you and tell you it's not hard work. You've got to want it. You got to get out and want to do it. And you've got to get out and make sure that you continue to advocate for yourself and that you continue to work hard. And those that work hard will continue to do better and get better. And I just really appreciate that. So I'll say this, and I'll say it again. I'm 1,000% committed to helping. But as my dad used to say to me, the answer is always no to 100% of the questions you don't ask. So with that, I will shut up and we can move on to the next piece.
Oh, I appreciate it, Don and Naomi. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge. So before we jump into any questions, just a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I wanted to kind of quickly go over this slide right now. After every event, we want to be able to share any upcoming events, upcoming apprenticeship deadlines or other program deadlines, and then just simply some resources. So if you haven't heard of Construct Tomorrow, it is a hands-on career fair that includes all of the building trades. So there's actually 2 coming up pretty quickly here in February. We can also send out these slides as a follow-up and include all the links to these upcoming events and deadlines. So check out Construct Tomorrow. We also have another virtual event coming up in February where we are going to spotlight electrical careers. So if there's students on the call or teachers or community members that know anyone that are interested in exploring electrical careers, this would be a good one to attend. You'll be hearing from the apprenticeship coordinators. So they're really going to dive deeper into application process, the qualifications, kind of a day in the life of an electrician, things like that. So sign up for that event on February 26th. Application deadlines. So here at Construction Careers Foundation, we actually have a paid summer internship, which is the Minnesota Trades Academy. Some approaching deadlines are Minneapolis residents and St. Paul residents. Those applications are open. If you have any questions about that, I can share my contact information as well and follow up with you. Lake Street Works is another really great construction training program for high school students, and it's during the school year, and their application process is open now. Some website resources. So our website is a really great resource if students want to dive a little bit deeper into, what is a pile driver? What do they do? What is a boiler maker? And kind of steps to prepare for a construction career. And then the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry is another great resource. It has all of the contact information for all of the apprenticeship training centers, the deadlines. So kind of exactly what Don was sharing too. So just some resources I wanted to share with you all. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh. Okay. So just for the next couple of minutes, if anybody has any questions, I think, if you want to put it in the chat, great. Or if you want to just if you just want to come off of your video and unmute yourself, feel free to do that as well. I have a question if nobody else does. But I want to be mindful of our audience first.
Lindsay, this is Mary. We just have one quick question about whether we're going to be sharing the presentation out.
Oh, yes. We can share slides as long as presenters are okay with that. We can share the recording out. We also have a Construction Careers newsletter, and I think we'll be including that in our newsletter as well. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, we can follow up with this event with a link to sign up for our newsletter, because we also share all sorts of application deadlines, upcoming events that way as well. Okay, I think one quick question that I have um, is can either one of you kind of go over like the broader qualifications to get into an apprenticeship? And then I know Don, with you mentioned going to the different websites and learning more that way. Is that the best way for someone interested in a specific trade to go and apply, or kind of what's your recommendation for applying?
I always say that the most important thing to get into an apprenticeship program, or if you find one that you're passionate about getting into, is you need to be 18 years old. You need to have a high school diploma. Now, they also say that they'll take a GED, but I'm encouraging you to stay in high school and get a high school diploma. That's really extremely important. And then typically, because they're all a little bit different, right? I would encourage you to go and look and see where those pieces are. For example, if you want to be an electrician, they have a national test that they give for across the nation. You got to make a certain score on it. So um, it's always helps to have a career navigator and someone to help you navigate some of those spaces and kind of move through those things. And a lot of the times you'll see that the JATCs are willing to help you because they want your success is their success. So there's some great opportunity there to move through, and this is what they do. And that's why programs like CCF are so important, is because they will help you navigate those things through. Or like I've always said, I'll help navigate those things so that you can kind of move. Now, you're going to have to go do the work, right? I'm not going to go do it for you, but I'll give you the resources you need to make sure that you have all the information as possible, if that answered your questions.
Yeah, and then one more question for either of you. So what happens after you become an apprentice? You apply to be a pipe fitter, you get accepted into their program. Kind of what happens next?
Well, yeah, and for I know, and like let's just say you wanted to be a pipe fitter, right? Typically, we're the pipe fitters. They would put you out to work. So you'd go to work for a company. You'd be going to work every day. Six to our hours are typically in the summer months. We work from 6 to 2:30 or 7 to 3:30. But you would go to work every day, and then you would start school typically in September, is what we call it, but apprenticeship during September. During that time, they're going to get you registered as an apprentice with the Department of Labor and Industry. And you're going to start classes. So we call it, you earn while you learn, right? You're earning money every day. You're going to work. You're starting out from typically about 20, 25 bucks an hour on your first year. And then you're you're moving those pieces through to make sure that you're going to class at night. Typically, a lot of them are night classes, so you don't miss any work time. Some are day classes. It just depends. Each program's a little bit different.
Okay, thank you. There is a question in the chat. It says, I have read that demand for apprenticeships is much higher than spots available. Do you observe this in the Twin Cities area? And if so, how many seasons or cycles before people are able to get into a program?
I would tell you that there's great opportunity now. We're starting to see, we have been seeing people retire, and as we look, we know, through our health, our trust funds, everything else, they know about how many people are projected to retire every year, and they're filling those classes, 30 to 50 people in each class throughout the piece. So I'll tell you, with the demand of work out there, they're taking in apprentices. A couple of the trades, like the plumbers this year, were going to take 30. They went to 35, I believe, our last year. So I would tell you the demand is there. I tell you that and that's only the St. Paul local. The Minneapolis local probably took another 30 to 35 and maybe more. I don't know. But I would tell you the demand's there. And I definitely think with the amount of work out there, I mean, I'll just say this, the refinery alone, FHR, Flint Hills Refinery, is going to have 3,100 people working for the turnaround coming this spring. So I believe their turnaround is in April. At peak, they'll have about 3,100 people. You've got the Meta project alone, that's huge down there. You've got just a tremendous amount of construction coming, and that's not even including all the road construction that's going on out there. There's a great amount of work out there that's going, and especially in the Twin Cities, but throughout the state of Minnesota, where they're looking for people.
Noel, did you have a comment on this question, or did you have another question?
Just a few separate questions.
Okay. Well, I think adding to what Casey had said, kind of echoing Don, it really, so much of this is going to vary by industry and by year. So there are a few programs that do have hefty waiting lists. I mean, I'll be honest, my brother is a local 15 plumber. It took him a few years to be able to get in, but these are also going to be so dependent on what work is looking like that year. Like Don said, sometime this year there's business is booming and there's a lot of demand. It also will depend on how high folks are scoring on placement tests, on their previous skills or experience. And then that's just in one trade. But then also you heard earlier that like the laborers are taking people year round. So it's really tough to, paint with a broad brush and say one way or another. But I would say the answer is it's always best to check with individual programs, to call if you're interested in something and say, hey, do you have openings available? What are things looking like? One recommendation I always have is face-to-face and phone-to-phone. If you're interested, reach out to the programs that you're interested in, always ask these questions because they like to see that you're interested. They like to know that you're taking this initiative.
Yeah, Noelle, go for it if you have a question.
I have many, but I'm gonna bother Don in in an email later. So, but one thing that I found, so I previously, prior to my current position, I was a work-based learning teacher for special education in a high school. So I'm kind of coming from a different lens. But one thing I found as a barrier was like some training facilities said that you had to like apply and find a sponsor versus be placed with a sponsor. Is that accurate now? Are you seeing that decrease because we're building better industry partnerships, or what is that looking like, I guess?
Yeah, I think that, if you're asking me, I would say that I would be honest with you and tell you that I hear that a lot. And I think that the conversation needs to just change a little bit and say, when you talk about a sponsor, I always say, okay, did you ask the person telling you that if they could give you a list of contractors and which ones are hiring? They know who's hiring, who's not hiring. So when we talk about advocating for yourself, that's really the question, you know what I mean? Because they don't want to pick winners and losers, or sometimes they can't, right? And what I mean by that is they don't want to tell you which contractor, but you've got to ask those questions too and say, hey, who's hiring, right? If you're going to go be a pipe fitter, well, I think they put you out, let's say the painter, because that's one of those ones. They know who's super busy and who's not busy, right? And I would just encourage you to think about it that way and to find those contractors, start the ones that are out there. And then, that's where those interpersonal skills that we learn in high school and stuff like that, that's where that stuff comes into play and it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate that. I mean, it's just as like from the teacher perspective of how do you actually communicate to the student like that piece. And I didn't know if like that was something that people are supposed to be advocating and asking for, because I'm obviously teaching self-advocacy every day. So thank you.
The other thing that I just say, if I can just add a little bit, and I apologize for interrupting. I always talk to, when I talk to students, if they're not thinking about going into, say, some of the licensed trades, I always say, hey, pick three, right? Pick three trades. Let's go explore all three of them. And then let's go see what the opportunities are, so that as you're looking at that, you can say, well, all these are about equal, right? Maybe it's, I want to be a laborer, I want to be a painter, I want to be a cement mason. All of being equal, see what opportunity comes, and it's the best opportunity for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Well, I know we're already over time. So if you have to drop, we totally understand. Is there any other final questions or thoughts from Don and Naomi that you want to share out before we conclude?
I'll just say this, and I hope that you got my email, and that office number was my office number. But I would tell you, Lindsay, you can share my cell number too. I'm here to help you. Use me as a resource. I typically try to follow up on all my emails every day. I'm not going to say that I always get there, but I do my best to. But I'm here to help. But again, the answer is always no if to 100% of the questions you don't ask, right? So I'm here to help, and I would just encourage you to do the same.
All right. Any conclusions, Naomi? Otherwise,
Yeah, I echo everything that Don just said, as I'm always available by email or by phone. You can call me, beat me, whenever you need.
awesome. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Don. Thanks everybody for attending tonight. We'll follow up with all this information, and we're always available, like Naomi and Don said, to answer any questions or help out. So I appreciate you and everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good night.